Hello, everybody. Tracy, Mrs. JDog Flanagan with you here today. I'm the co-founder and senior vice president at JDog Brands. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Tactical Treasures Podcast, powered by Vet TV and JDog. Our podcast gives veterans, mil spouses, active military members, and military family members a voice in the veteran space to speak about their service, how they're affecting their communities post-service, and they share with me a tactical treasure that has helped them in their journey in their military career, business, or life. Today, I'm very excited to have with me Matt May, who is retired from the U.S. Navy as Master Chief after serving over 25 years as an elite U.S. Navy SEAL, where he held multiple leadership roles in operational units based in Europe, Middle East, and South America. Matt completed his undergraduate studies while serving out his last few years on active duty, graduating magna cum laude from St. Leo University and receiving a degree in business administration with a specialization in management. Today, Matt is president of Core Group Resources, which provides executive search, contingency search, contracting, consultancy, outplacement, and data surveys. Hi, Matt. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, what an amazing career. 25 years as an elite U.S. Navy SEAL. How exciting. What inspired you and initially led you to join the Navy?
Well, at the time, I was definitely not very good in scholastics. So college was not in my future at that point in time, and figured I didn't want to stay in Michigan and go to General Motors like the rest of my family, and decided the Navy was probably the best choice for me at the time.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's great. You obviously loved being in the Navy. Amazing career of 25 years. Wow. That's an amazing service. Thank you, sir. Is there a specific moment that spoke to you or was especially impactful of your service?
Oh, I mean,
I'm sure a lot, right?
I initially went in. I initially went in for a 6-year term, because in the SEAL program, you usually have to do a little bit more. And I went under a dive fair program. So I knew I was going to do at least 6 years. I figured I was going to get my degree during that time frame and then join the FBI or CIA. That was the plan. When I came in, I mean, obviously it was very difficult. Certain times you think, okay, I'm not this. Is this for me? Is it not for me? But had no reservations about not quitting, etc., through the program. But once I got to SEAL Team 2, they always say, in the military, you're never going to work with the same level of people you do when you're in the military, in the civilian environment. I'll say there's definitely some level of truth to that. I was fortunate enough to be in the SEALs for 25 years. Hands down, the greatest, most dedicated, hardworking, smart people I've ever met in my life. And that's probably what was the deciding factor of me to continue staying in the military. It definitely wasn't for the pay. It was for the level of people that I was surrounded with on a daily basis. And they motivated me to do better. Like I said, I was horrible in school, struggled to get through school. But during that time in the military, and having the opportunity to talk to others that, came before me and say, hey, you really need to concentrate on your education. It's not always about just being in the military. There is going to come a time when it's going to end, and having an education to back your, they know that you're dedicated. They know that you're going to show up on time. They know that you have leadership, but do you have some of those extra skill sets that an education could potentially give you to go to the next level? That was very impactful and helpful for me.
Right. So what was it like transitioning out of the military after such a long time being in service? Obviously, you completed college, during that time. But after all that was said and done, what was it like getting out and just trying to transition and figure out your next steps?
So when I've talked to a lot of people and I try to mentor people that want to be SEALs and go into the program. And I've
Right.
mentored a lot of people that are coming out, SEALs, Navy, Air Force, Marines. I speak to a lot of veterans, usually on a daily basis. And I've done other speaking engagements, talking to veteran groups. But there was no difference for me that you're always nervous. Okay, what am I qualified to do? You know, am I past my prime? Did I stay in the military too long? Um, I was a SEAL. There's not a whole lot of transferable skills out there other than being a police officer going into
Yeah.
security. And after 25 years, it was easier for me to determine what I did not want to do than it was to determine what I wanted to do.
Right.
And that is probably one of the hardest things for people in the military to figure out. Where do I fit in the commercial or civilian space that was such an easy fit for me in the military? Nobody ever questions, like I say, their leadership or their ability to show up on time, dress correctly, and so on and so forth. Most companies all understand that. But do you have a skill set that registers in terms of revenue for that company to get to where they want to be and grow as an organization? And that is the hard part for veterans to determine where is the best fit. I applied to Amazon. I applied to probably 15 different companies and I took interviews. Luckily for me, I don't get nervous. I don't get tongue tied when I'm talking. They ask me questions, I answer. So I did relatively well during my interviews and got job offers for most of them. Were they at the pay point that I was looking for? Not always. Some of them not so bad, but I was determining what was good for my family and what was good for me. But, you know, there's definitely a level of anxiety and anxiousness when you're going to get out, and where do you best fit and what do you qualify for? And then, yeah, how much do you want to get paid? And I will say a lot of military people kind of overestimate their dollar amount when they get out. Companies are taking a risk on you to a degree, unless you have a very specific skill set that you fill almost immediately day one.
Right. Yeah, that's good advice. Well said. Hello, viewers and listeners. Are you a military veteran or military family member and looking to own your own business? If so, go to jdog.com and check out our two veteran-focused franchises, JDog Junk Removal and Hauling and JDog Carpet Cleaning and Floor Care. Our franchisees nationwide are always looking to hire fellow veterans and patriots. JDog is the world's largest military franchise system with hundreds of locations nationwide. We are nearly 90% veteran owned with the goal of reducing the veteran unemployment rate to under 1%. Check us out. Go to jdog.com to learn more. Now, back to the podcast. So right now, you're currently the president at Core Group Resources. Could you tell us about the services that Core Group Resources offers?
So pretty simple. We're recruiting and staffing. We're known for our maritime recruiting. So we are probably the leader in the U.S. for maritime recruiting and what we call crewing services for vessels, and that's vessels of every kind, from shipping containers, bulk carriers, inland waterways, tug and barge, lots of oil and gas. We are based here in Houston, Texas, so lots of oil and gas here. Everything power, from power distribution companies to renewables, aerospace, construction, IT. There's really not an industry that we haven't touched in some way, shape, or form, but definitely our core business is very, very heavily engaged in the oil and gas, energy, renewables sector on and offshore.
Okay. And so if there's veterans who are looking to transition, who have recently transitioned, would they come to you? Would you be the right option for them to find work post-service?
It is. We've placed a lot of veterans. But I will say, I mean, if you're a mechanic diesel mechanic, an electrician, maybe very specific skill sets. Those are relatively easy to place. I will say that when you're going to get out of the military, I was willing to move anywhere to get a job. I was looking at, okay, I'm an unknown entity. I'm a retired SEAL. You know, understand business management. I had some businesses prior. I used to own some restaurants and stuff, so I had business acumen, but I didn't have knowledge in the oil and gas space. I didn't have knowledge in telecom. I didn't have very specific skill set. And so I had to open up the aperture for my possibility to get what I wanted, which was land in a good company that had potential for growth and would get me to the paycheck that I was looking for down the road. And as long as you're willing to move, you know, obviously it needs to be a safe place for your family, good for your family, etc.
Sure, sure.
Then your opportunities are so much greater. I get so many veterans that come to me and they're like, oh, I want to stay in Tampa. I want to stay here. I want to stay there. Well, I'm a recruiting staffing company. I am only able to fill the jobs for the clients that come to me or the ones that we chase down to fill the jobs that they need filled. There's a lot of opportunity if you're willing to move. And I say, if you're going to get out, you need to be willing to relocate.
Good advice. Good advice. So if there were veterans that were getting out and wanted to get in contact, how would they reach out and get in contact with your team at Core Group and apply to receive assistance for job seeking? And how would they go about that?
So if you go to www.coregroupresources.com, we have an info page. You can actually fill out some information, upload your resume. We have a CRM system, customer management system, like most companies,
right?
A database that stores information. The more information we get, the more accurate you are in filling your information out, the better likelihood we are to match you correctly. I always tell people, you can go to job fairs and don't discount them. There always go to job fairs,
right?
When you get the opportunity, but don't hesitate in reaching out to recruiting companies, because you can go to a job fair and you're going to drop your resume off at a single company or maybe multiple companies, but it's just that company that you're dropping a resume off to. And let's face it, a lot of those resumes end up in the deep hole abyss of resumes for a company. They utilize a lot of software, AI, so do we, but I do believe that we go the extra mile to reach out to our candidates. I'm not going to guarantee and promise that we reach out to every candidate, but we do our absolute utmost. And if you drop a resume into us, I have over 400 clients that I'm filling for all the time. Maybe I don't have that perfect job for you right now, but I may have that job next week or the week after. And your opportunity to hit so many more different companies is so much greater with a recruiting and staffing company than it is for you to just go online and drop your resume into a single company, one a day or whatever the case may be. And I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying if you have the opportunity to research some recruiting and staffing companies and send your resume to them, they generally have a whole lot more than just one client. Whether it's me or Corporate Resources or anybody else, your opportunity is that much greater.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good thought. Great advice. Hello, viewers and listeners. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Tactical Treasures Podcast. We are currently speaking with Matt May, who is a retired U.S. Navy Master Chief after serving over 25 years as an elite U.S. Navy SEAL. He is currently the president of Core Group Resources, which is a Houston-based staffing and consulting agency established in 2012. Core Group Resources specializes in providing recruitment services such as direct hire, contracting, executive search, contingency search and consultancy to companies and job seekers in various industries, including maritime, offshore energy, technology, renewables, accounting and finance, and heavy construction. Core Group Resources believe that having the right employees from the beginning is crucial to achieving success, and it is their goal to guide individuals and businesses toward success by providing expert recruitment and consulting services. For more information and to apply as a job seeker or business, head to their website, coregroupresources.com. Now back to the podcast. Let's dive into your tactical treasure. I'm really excited to hear what you're going to share with us today.
So I never got a job from dumping my resume into a company. The only one would have been probably Amazon, but Amazon's really big on hiring veterans. If you're a competent person, I'll say they got a pretty thorough interview process, very thorough.
Right.
But you make it through that, you'll have a decent job with Amazon, and you have potential to grow within that organization. I'm a big proponent of Amazon. I love Amazon. Every job, though, that I've gotten has been through networking and the people that I've met. So in terms of my tactical treasure, you cannot network nearly enough. If I would have been half as smart as I am now when I was in the military, I would have kept every business card, every connection I ever made while I was in, especially over those last 5 years. I failed miserably in not doing that and reaching out to those people. The first job that I ever got was not definitely my dream job, but it was, opening Next Op Vets here in Houston, which is another organization I would highly, highly recommend to veterans that are getting out of the military. They are technically my competitor, but I'm the first executive director of Next Op Vets, which is a recruiting company that recruits for free to the client. I do not work for free to the client. I am a for-profit. We do not charge our candidates. Any veteran or any person that ever comes to us, we do not charge you. We get paid by the client that hires you. If any recruiting company ever asks you for money up front, do not talk to them. They are a scam. They will take your money, and there's no guarantee that you'll get a job. Come to a company like us. But Next Op Vets is a nationwide recruiting and staffing nonprofit organization. They've placed over 3,500 veterans since 2015, so they do pretty well. Their clients are Chevron, BP, Exxon, and a lot of other companies outside of oil and gas, all over the country. They got offices in Louisiana, etc. But I got that job because of networking, because two individuals that I met knew Doug Fauché, who wields a very big stick here in Houston, and I saw a great opportunity for more networking. Doug Fauché, self-made, multi-hundred millionaire, ex-COO of Halliburton, CEO, chairman of El Paso Oil. He's going to get me in doors that I would never be able to get in. He's introduced me to the CEOs of some of the largest companies on the planet, to the CEOs of those companies. You don't get in those doors unless you know somebody. I did that for 6 months. After that company, I had networked because I went to some conference event and I met a guy there who used to be in the military, and he was the managing director of TampNet, which is a Norwegian company, but they do offshore telecommunications. I never saw myself in sales. He asked me to come in for a meeting because he knew I was getting ready to do a transition out of Nextop, out of Nextop. And I was looking for my next permanent role. And he said, "Hey, I'd like to hire as my, VP of sales." And I looked at him. I was like, "Well, I don't know anything about sales, and I've never done sales a day in my life." And he goes, "You do sales every day. You did sales with us when you tried to sell Nextop to us, and we hired you guys to recruit for us." And he goes, "I like the fact that you don't know sales. You have no bad habits." Right. He goes, I can train you the way I want. And you can definitely manage people and lead people and drive them to do better. And so that's what he hired me for. I stayed there for 3 years while I was there, and this was the biggest one. At that point in time, at least by age and where I was driving, I was looking for a chief commercial officer position or a C-suite level role. Now, in terms of years to get a C-suite position, you're talking you should have 15 to 20 years plus, in my opinion, before you kind of get to those roles. I was on a fast track. I wasn't willing to, live with that. I'd been out for 4 or 5 years, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to get to be a C-suite spot, and want to be the boss. I had met a guy for 5 minutes. He came into TampNet. He worked for DARPA. Never met this guy before in my life. He was a Marine officer in the past, and he had his own company. And he was coming to us about some offshore telecommunications stuff. I met this guy just in a brief, passing meeting because he was talking to our CEO. Got his business card. 2 years later, I reach out to him and I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about leaving TampNet. Can't go any higher. It's a Norwegian company. I'm never going to be the chief commercial officer. I'm ready for the next level. He's like, okay. At the same time, I called and spoke to a good friend of mine who works for a very, very well-known executive placement company. And he told me over the phone, he's like, I don't think you're ready. You're not at that level. And I'm like, okay, well, there's this company that a friend of mine is thinking I'd be a good, perfect fit for. And we've submitted my resume through him. And he's just by chance, he's like, well, what's the name of that company? And I was like, Ocean Power Technologies. And he's like, say that again. I said, Ocean Power Technologies. He's like, I got the contract to fill that position. I'm like, really? I was like, you just told me I'm not the right guy for it. And the CEO of Ocean Power Technologies wants to have an interview with me day after tomorrow. And he's like, let me call you back. Obviously, he's looking to get his commission. The way this game works is if the resume goes to the company before the recruiter sends it to it, you don't get no commission. So he stand to lose a little bit of a hefty commission on that. Moral of the story on all this is every one of those jobs was through somebody I knew. Right. I didn't get those jobs because I dropped my resume into them. And there's others even beyond that, but we are limited on time. And second, don't underestimate your ability. Don't underestimate what you think you can do. Let somebody tell you no. It's okay if people tell you no. No's good. All right. But at least strive for reaching what you want, the pinnacle of where you feel you should be. And in my opinion, you'll either get there or it'll take you a little bit longer and you'll work to get there. But at least you're getting answers. If you never try and you never do it, now you'll never know.
Right. Yeah, you don't know who you don't know. I've heard that said a lot. Networking is truly key. And I think that, there's a lot of veteran networking groups out there. And I think it's amazing if veterans can plug into them right away as soon as they get out and just start networking, and never know who you don't know. So, and that you haven't met yet. So great advice, great treasure. I love it. So do you have any more advice for fellow veterans who may be struggling with that transition? I know we've kind of talked a lot about mentorship and networking and everything. Is there another little takeaway that you would have your veterans know so that they can, transition strongly out of the military?
I mention this only because of where I'm at right now. Prior to working at a recruiting and staffing company, and I've kind of dabbled in recruiting, throughout the years. I had to do a Navy recruiting stint, but totally different when you're recruiting SEALs and divers and air rescue swimmers for the military versus, the civilian side of things. But I started Next Stop. I didn't recruit there. It was really just getting the processes up and running, but been involved with the organization from the very beginning. Now they have a full staff of recruiters and processes, and et cetera. But really, a big takeaway is people hate doing resumes. They do. I despise doing my own resume. People, one, have a fear of talking about themselves and boasting about themselves.
Right.
Some people don't, but most people don't like to talk about themselves.
Sure.
The resume is absolutely that one thing that you boast about yourself. And you need to, as you're working at a job, I keep a master resume together, and they teach you a lot of this. Well, teach you some things at I forget what they call it now, but when you're getting out of the military, they bring in and discuss LinkedIn and all the rest of that stuff. You really need to write down bullets as you go because you forget those things. And now, okay, either one, you get fired or you don't like your job and you quit. And now you got to do a resume. And now you got to remember all the great things that you used to do at that company. And now you can't remember them anymore. And you're trying to put a resume together. A resume is very important. There's not one job that I fill, unless it's on the contracting side of the house, that I'm not sending a resume to. It is still the first step before the client talks to you. I can absolutely talk you up and everything, but the resume is really their first visual of you. And when you are looking at the job and all of the different bullet points of that job, you need to hit on each one of those to the best of your ability, because big companies use AI. They are not going to read 1,000 resumes. And if you don't have words that associate to those bullet points in that job description, they will never see your resume. So, one, make sure that you fill out your resume as you go, or at least write the bullet points down, while you're in that organization on the great things that you did. Two, when you go to apply for jobs, technically you should be writing a new resume for every job, for every company that you apply to. It should not be the same. Your odds of getting hired are so much greater when you write your resume in relation to that job description. Now, don't exaggerate, because you will get busted. Yeah. And if you do get hired, they're going to find out that you're not qualified for something and you're going to get fired.
True. But I never thought about having a different resume kind of tailored to each job that you're going to. That's a really great piece of advice.
Yeah, and it's a master resume. I have a resume that's probably about 10 pages long.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, I'm not submitting that. Yeah. I'm cutting it down based on the job that I'm going for and taking out bullet points. And I've been working for 35 years. It's still a 2-page resume. I'm not sending 3 pages.
Right.
It's 2 pages.
Right. Yeah. Great advice. Thank you. So before you go, can you tell us where people can find and connect with you and where they can find out more information on core group resources? If you could just, repeat that website again and that process.
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. You can definitely find me there. I'm not, especially LinkedIn.
Right.
Type in Matt May, you'll see my picture, or core group resources on LinkedIn. You'll find me. You can send me a message. I don't keep any of that stuff restricted. I get every message and I read every message. Maybe not every day, but I assure you that I open them up. I will send my work email. I don't generally flash that out because obviously I will be inundated with more emails than I know what to do with.
Sure. Sure.
But core group resources, you can look us up on the internet. You can get our info information. Reach out to the company and call, whatever. If somebody says, hey, I'd like to speak with Matt May, I have an assistant, but she already knows about this. She's very familiar. So obviously if they mention JDog, then she'll put them through to me. But really, LinkedIn is probably the best way to get in touch with me directly.
Okay.
And then at that point in time, I will send you a message, giving you my email, phone number. We can talk more if you got questions. If I could put you over to Jeremy, who is really our candidate person, who will do a very quick search, get you in our system, get you over to the right recruiter, depending on what you're looking for. Yeah, I'm always willing to help, especially if you're a veteran. I will definitely go the extra mile.
Thanks. I appreciate that. That's great information. So, veterans, if you're looking for a job, check out Matt May and Core Group Resources. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to come on Tactical Treasures and sharing everything that you shared. And thank you so much for your service, sir. What an amazing career you've had. It was so great to hear all about that. Thank you for sharing.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care. Hello, viewers and listeners. We have just finished up an awesome conversation with Matt May, who retired from the U.S. Navy as Master Chief after serving over 25 years as an elite U.S. Navy SEAL. He is now currently the president of Core Group Resources, which is a Houston-based staffing and consulting agency established in 2012. Core Group Resources specializes in providing recruitment services such as direct hire, contracting, executive search, contingency search, and consultancy to companies and job seekers in various industries, including maritime, offshore energy, technology, renewables, accounting and finance, and heavy construction. Core Group Resources believe that having the right employees from the beginning is crucial to achieving success, and it is their goal to guide individuals and businesses towards success by providing expert recruitment and consulting services. For more information and to apply as a job seeker or business, head to their website, coregroupresources.com. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Tactical Treasures Podcast. And don't forget, you can see our podcast on all your favorite podcast streaming platforms, as well as Vet TV. We are now airing on Reese Across America Radio on Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern and Saturdays at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can also find Reese Across America Radio on the iHeartRadio app, Odyssey app, and the TuneIn app. See you next time on another podcast. Bye-bye now.